From the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. As we explained yesterday, new time slot for us. We're going to be coming at you live from 8 to 9 o'clock, a full hour to try and give you guys as much information as possible. In that time, of course, the top story of the day, the fatal ICE shooting in Minneapolis that many of you have probably seen if you've been on your phone, if you've been watching TV, on your computer. We're going to have that video to show you. We're going to have a variety of angles. We're going to have reaction. We're going to have the latest from the Minneapolis mayor. We'll also show you Secretary Kristi Noem and her response from the Department of Homeland Security. And that's what we will start with. I know typically we like to go with what's happening here locally, which of course is important, but we will talk about this and we will have information from our other station in Minneapolis, Fox 9. And we'll also talk about an update on the Uvalde school shooting trial, which we did have some interesting developments with that. Our very own Jenna King reporting on that today, giving us some interesting updates. We will also give you guys an update related to the yogurt shop murders, having to do with the man they eventually found to be guilty of this was Robert Eugene Brashers, of course. Developments that we got in September after this cold case had been going on for decades, stemming all the way back from 1991, that quadruple homicide. So there is an update with that regarding another crime related to this. So we'll have all of that for you, and our very own Marco Bittnell will have that story coming up at 9 o'clock. But back to the top story of the day, obviously, a fatal shooting in Minneapolis involving an ICE agent. I do want to warn you before I show you this video, it may be distressing or disturbing to some of you. There is a warning on this, so I just want to give you advance about that. And we will show another angle as well, and we will then show you reaction from some of the local leaders. So this happening earlier today, and oddly enough, this area actually not that far from the George Floyd incident that happened, almost 6 years ago now. So here is that video, and I want you to pay attention to this Honda Pilot here in the middle. I'll turn this volume up a little bit here.
No! No! Oh my God! What the? What the? You just what the did you do?
So a lot of that obviously bleeped out there. You can see someone in that neighborhood. There were ICE agents here involving an operation that was going on, and then you have some cars and this Honda Pilot here appearing to stop in the roadway as other ICE vehicles are trying to go around her from what it looks like. And then you're going to see one of those ICE officers come up to her car door here, trying to get her out of the way, telling her to get out of the car. He's going to reach for that door handle. She then backs up, tries to turn to her right there, and the officer in front of the vehicle there firing a few shots. She eventually goes into another vehicle there that you'll see right here. So that's one angle of it. I do want to show you another angle by somebody else that captured video of this during the same incident. So this is from the other side. What we just showed you was that car, the person being behind them. This is from the other side of that, where the vehicle will head, where it ultimately ends up crashing. And this woman, I do want to remind you, this woman is dead. She's a 37-year-old. Let's see, her name here is, I had it. But Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good has been identified as the woman who dies following this shooting. So this is another angle now. And once again, I do want to warn everybody out there that's watching this, this may be disturbing. So, if you do not want to watch this, I'm just letting you know now. This is that other side of it now. So it's the same incident that you just saw, just from the other side. We'll listen in. So this is where it appears to happen again, right here. The car's trying to leave. You hear the shots fired. This car ultimately going to go into this white vehicle here, that Honda Pilot crashing. There was another angle from another woman that was recording all of this, and she actually goes up to the car while the woman is inside, and that woman unfortunately dying there. And the officer, the ICE officer involved, we were told, was injured, went to the hospital according to Secretary Christino. I'll show you that in a second. But right after this incident happened, of course, a lot of people online having to give their comments and statements and their opinions on it. And the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, giving his visceral reaction to this, very upset regarding this incident. So I want you to listen in to what the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, had to say after this woman was pronounced dead.
Are going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, this was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible. To the family, I'm so deeply sorry. There's nothing that I can say right now that's going to make you or your relatives or the friends of the victim feel any better. There were, I believe, 2 Minneapolis police officers that responded and were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The second was to get ICE off of the scene. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult situation even more problematic, and one that, yes, they created themselves. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the f*** out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. We are better than a bunch of ICE agents being deployed to cities around the country and ripping apart families and communities. We're better than that. And so we are going to meet that hate with love. We are going to meet that despair with hope. We are going to meet that injustice with constitutional justice ourselves. And we're going to make sure that in this very difficult moment, we do not take the bait that these ICE agents are trying to create and that the federal government, to be clear, wants.
That was Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey responding after a 37-year-old woman, Renee Nicole Good, was shot dead by an ICE officer early this morning. I do want to have some information here from our affiliate Fox 9 in Minneapolis. This is according to their article. The shooting happening around 9:30 this morning in the area of East 34th Street and Portland Avenue. It reports here the woman died at the hospital, but I do want to take you through what some of the witnesses had to say before we get to some of the other reaction here. One of the witnesses saying a woman got into a red vehicle in the area, as those 2 streets I just told you, 1 ICE agent on either side of the vehicle trying to get in, and a 3rd ICE agent came in and tried to yank on the driver's side door. One of the agents on the driver's side door backed away and then opened fire, shooting 3 times through the driver's side window. This is according to the witnesses there. One witness said the vehicle wasn't moving toward the agents. This is another interesting part of this that Jacob Frey, I'm not sure if he's aware of this at the time of when he's talking, but another important piece. Fox 9 goes on to say, meanwhile, witnesses said a doctor was at the scene and tried to help the woman who had been shot, but the ICE agents refused to let the doctor in to help. Up to 15 minutes later, an ambulance arrived but was blocked by ICE vehicles that had occupied the streets. Witnesses go on to say ICE agents then carried a, quote, limp body to the end of the street where the person was loaded into the ambulance. That according to this reporting here from our affiliate Fox 9 out there in Minneapolis. So obviously the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, very upset there, as you just heard, saying to ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis, also saying they're trying to come in here and be more safe and help with these operations. He believes it is doing more harm than good. He said people are being hurt, families are being ripped apart, and he is saying that the federal government wants this kind of chaos to occur. So that's from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Shortly after that, President Donald Trump giving his thoughts on the matter on his Truth Social account. I do want to run through this here. This is President Trump saying, I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of, quote, making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate, signed President Donald J. Trump. So that is his response to this, saying here that he believes the woman is a professional agitator and that the woman driving the car was disorderly, obstructing, and resisting, and she viciously ran over the officer. Now, I did show you that video. I'm not quite sure the angle exactly if he was run over. It looks as though the man that shoots her is still standing up after that. I'm not quite sure if the contact that was perhaps made with his body or even lower body, perhaps his leg. I mean, we can run through it again. Let's just go back to it. So this is that incident that we were just talking about. So President Donald Trump saying that this person was viciously ran over here. So you can see this person right here trying to get inside the vehicle. The other ICE agent comes up, firing those shots. Not sure if his foot was ran over. I'm not sure exactly any part of his lower leg there was ran over. But President Donald Trump saying that person, recovering in the hospital. Anyway, so that's what Donald Trump had to say about it. We showed you the other angle. We showed you what Jacob Frey had to say. Then shortly after that, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer actually wanted to give his thoughts on the matter. He's with Senator Elizabeth Warren here as well, so we'll listen into that.
I saw the video. It just turns your stomach. We need a quick and full investigation to get to the bottom of this. But when you have these ICE agents all over the streets of our cities without any cooperation with local law enforcement, local communities, tragedies, horrible tragedies, killings occur.
That was Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer there talking about the fatal shooting. Once again, if you're just joining us, an ICE agent fatally shot a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis early this morning around 9:30. She was driving in a Honda Pilot there, appearing to obstruct an ICE operation, trying to appear to get away. She veers right, almost making contact there with the ICE agent, and they fatally shoot her there. And of course, President Donald Trump giving his 2 cents on this, as well as the Minneapolis mayor. When we come back, I want to show you some of the reaction here locally from some of our Texas politicians and what they had to say, specifically Congressman Lloyd Doggett, the Democrat. We also have Senator John Cornyn giving his 2 cents on this, and of course the person that he may be running up against in that election, James Tallarico, on the other side. So we'll show you all of that. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, you'll hear more of that reaction, and we'll also give you an update on the Uvalde school shooting trial, which I know so many of you out there glued to your televisions trying to see the opening statements, understand what's going on, and really just get the best updates possible. So we'll have all that. Welcome back into Austin Now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. I want to continue our coverage on this deadly shooting involving an ICE agent and a 37-year-old woman who was killed this morning. It was on about 9:30 this morning, and a lot of this information, getting it from our Fox affiliate, Fox 9, out there in Minneapolis. As I mentioned before we went to break there, I did want to show you some of the reaction from local politicians here in Texas. And I do want to bring up what Congressman Lloyd Doggett, the Democrat, had to say in response to this. He says, quote, "The horrific killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis by an ICE agent is a disgusting tragedy that should never have happened. Time and time again, wherever ICE goes, chaos follows. As they terrorize and threaten communities, they are not seeking to find the bad ones. They're after anyone that can remove, no matter how much that individual is contributing to the community. Violence begets violence, and those who respond with violence and destruction to the shooting are only helping Trump. He and Kristi Noem should have to answer for the dangerous lies they are spreading rather than allowing them to shift the focus to violence by protesters." So a very strongly worded statement there from Democrat Lloyd Doggett. I did want to also show you what Senator John Cornyn had to say, the Republican. And right after this happened, he was backing ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. So we'll go to that. So if you look here, he says, about 4 hours ago, 100% agree. Thank you to all our brave law enforcement who keep us safe. He is quote tweeting there from the direct White House account. "We stand with the brave men and women of ICE and law enforcement who risk everything to keep our communities safe." So, as is the case with many of these situations, when something like this happens, you've got both sides of the aisle giving their perspectives. Obviously not a lot of nuance, having to pick one side or the other, who you think is wrong, who you think is right. This is typically what we see in the wake of this. There's been other congressmen and senators out there, such as the politician John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, saying everybody needs to calm down their rhetoric. So a lot of going back and forth here that we've seen today. I did want to show you what Kristi Noem had to say in regards to this, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Obviously, she has done a lot to promote these ICE operations. We see her all the time on social media, going to different spots. She was in Texas when this happened, and then eventually having a press conference just a few hours ago to give essentially the Department of Homeland Security's side on this. So I do want to take this once again from our affiliate in Minneapolis, Fox 9. So we'll listen in to what Secretary Kristi Noem has to say following the death of Renee Nicole Good, the 37-year-old woman from Minneapolis.
This situation, it was preventable. I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis. We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June. He sustained injuries at that time as well. And let me remind you why we're all here in this city today and why we've been here. In communities across this country and here in Minneapolis, we're just enforcing the laws that we have in this country. For years under President Biden, tens of millions of dangerous criminal illegal aliens, terrorists, and suspected terrorists were allowed to invade our country over our southern border. They were allowed to steal, to defraud, and to perpetuate violence against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Frye's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes.
I do want to skip
because
ahead
Governor
as well,
Walz and
because
Mayor Frye
Secretary Kristi Noem here also in talking about the numbers here against Walz and Frye during their tenures. I do want to skip ahead here because she is asked more about this specific case with the 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed.
Prediction that he won't turn over us today, too, which is going to stop. But the facts of the matter is he's an experienced officer. He's been in situations like this before, and he certainly has been out there and followed his training today. You know, people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons. This domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety. And Americans deserve better. That hasn't been a part of the discussion. I know Governor Walz mentioned some of that earlier in his press conference, but we've got law enforcement officers here that will continue to work, and we're hopeful that the public recognizes that the work that we do every day makes America safe again. With that, we had law enforcement officers that were out there doing an enforcement action, and a vehicle got stuck in the snow, and so they had called other people to come and help them get that vehicle out. Those officers were trying to free the vehicle when the harassment started, when the protesters were out there impeding their vehicles and preventing them from leaving the scene. I won't speak to that.
Were they under target that person maybe committed that you were going after? Full body cam footage.
I will let the FBI decide.
Were they on target?
So she was just asked there about body cam footage, and she said she'll let the FBI decide on that. I do want to go through some of the things she had said. She said the man who fired the shots had been previously dragged by an anti-ICE rioter last summer as well. She went on to say, we are just enforcing the laws of this country. She then went into sort of bashing the Biden administration for getting to this point. And she said tens of millions of criminal illegal aliens have come through the border. She then went and started to break into Governor Walz and Jacob Frye, the mayor of Minneapolis, in terms of their failures as leaders in her eyes as well. And then she was asked about the actual incident with the woman who was killed, Renee Nicole Good, and she was saying that they want to prosecute things like this as domestic terrorism. They believe that she was, not her specifically, but she said there, and if you listen to it, it was, she believes these people are being trained, essentially professional agitators, protesters, if you will, being trained to use their vehicles as a weapon. So we don't know the entire background of exactly the entire situation, obviously something that's going to be investigated. But according to Secretary Kristi Noem, the FBI will ultimately decide if they're going to release anything such as body cam footage. We will see. I think I would be surprised if that happens. But when we come back, I do want to talk about the latest on the Uvalde school shooting trial in Corpus Christi. Of course, that defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, he is facing 29 felony counts of child endangerment. That school massacre that occurred not so long ago. Obviously, it's just one of the worst things that we've ever had to talk about here in the state of Texas, one of the worst things that you can imagine happening. 19 students killed, 2 teachers killed, and this case trying to figure out exactly if Adrian Gonzalez is guilty of those child endangerment felony counts against him. So we'll show you exactly sort of a twist that happened yesterday right after those opening statements. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll get into that, and we'll talk more about our reporter Jenny King's story on that, and we'll show you what exactly that had to do with regarding a witness, and we'll actually go into the courtroom and show you that. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Austin Now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. We're moving into the second half of the show. Obviously, we used to go from 8:30 to 9. Now we're going 8 to 9. So 8:30 actually starting the second half of the show. In the first half, obviously talking about the developing situation in Minneapolis regarding that ICE-involved shooting. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good dead after appearing to be involved near what was an ICE operation. She was in a Honda Pilot, an SUV, appearing to block sort of the passage of things that were happening there, and then trying to turn away, ultimately shot dead by an ICE officer. We saw reaction from President Trump. We saw reaction from the Minneapolis Mayor, Jacob Frey. We also heard from Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, on this as well, calling it an act of domestic terrorism and backing the ICE agent, saying he has gone to the hospital, was treated, and then she said he'll be spending some time with his family. So we'll continue to follow that story, specifically getting more information from our affiliate Fox 9 in Minneapolis. Back to the Uvalde school shooting trial in Corpus Christi. As I mentioned, the defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, a district police officer that was there, facing 29 felony counts of child endangerment. Now, as we saw yesterday, there was emotional testimony from a former teacher, and that actually led to a pause in the trial of this former Uvalde police officer. And so the jury was actually dismissed. And it's because there's a twist here. So, reading through this here, after the opening statements, the jury heard from several of the state's witnesses. Some of the most compelling testimony was when former third-grade teacher Stephanie Hale walked the jury through the day of the shooting. She testified that she saw the shooter in the south area of the campus, the same area where Gonzalez was, which could add to the prosecution's arguments that Gonzalez was there but did not take action. The defense, though, saying that Hale's testimony is different from what she previously said to a Texas Ranger. So the defense feeling like, hey, that's not what we were told, that's not what we were given in evidence, so feeling a bit blindsided by this. So I do want to take you through inside the courtroom here exactly her testimony. You'll see Adrian Gonzalez here as well, and so we'll listen in to her
Of your interview
testimony.
4 days after, that you never tell the ranger that you saw anybody that was dressed in black with long hair and a fire and a gun.
Correct.
You agree that you never told him that you saw dirt flying up on the playground. That was to you, I guess, putting two and two together, you felt like you were being shot at, which was your opinion.
Correct.
You never told the ranger any of those things.
I'm listening to that, no.
Right. And that was 4 days after it happened.
Correct.
And you would agree he gave you every opportunity to say everything that you remembered about what happened.
Yes.
And seeing the shooter and seeing somebody with a gun on your school would have been something that you would have told him at the time.
I would think so, yes.
In the dirt and you connecting that to their bullets being fired in your direction.
Yes.
Okay. So the question I have is, when you talked to the prosecutor on those incidents, did you tell them those details about seeing the person in black and with long black hair or with long hair and a firearm? And did you tell them about seeing dirt being kicked up at the playground?
I believe so, yes.
All right, Your Honor. And so based on that, we have never gotten any notice from the prosecution, and that is clearly an inconsistent statement with the statement that she did. The prosecution has never provided us. This is clear under Brady. It's clear under Michael Morton that if this is the first time that I'm hearing of this in a trial of this magnitude is when she testified on the stand about it. And so if she did report these things to the prosecution, we were entitled to that to prepare for this. And this is a trial by ambush.
As you hear there, the defense saying they believe this is a trial by ambush because of what this teacher had to say regarding, her witness testimony, basically saying this is not information that we were privy to before, and he believes it's an inconsistent statement, mainly due to the fact that they believe she testified she saw the shooter in the south area of the campus, the same area where Gonzalez was, which could add to the prosecution's arguments that Gonzalez was there but did not take action. And as you hear there, the defense saying this is not a consistent statement from what she told previously to a Texas Ranger right after this school shooting occurred. So the defense believing like, hey, we need something to remedy this. So earlier this afternoon, the judge asked for this to proceed forward, and then the defense was asking for a mistrial, saying it impacts its overall strategy. The judge, however, found it was not an intentional act, but rather negligence, and denied the motion for a mistrial. So when this first occurred, we thought maybe there was a chance that would be the case with this due to the inconsistency, but the judge ultimately deciding it was not intentional, but rather negligence. So certainly an interesting twist here, I guess you could say, overall in the trial. As I mentioned, the defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, facing 29 felony counts of child endangerment, and a lot of this put on pause because of this witness testimony, and obviously a little bit different than what they were initially told. So the defense trying to do everything they can to perhaps put this into a mistrial, but that was ultimately denied. We'll continue to follow this story. Of course, you can go on our website, fox7austin.com, for the latest on this. You can watch Jenna King's report on this as well, and you'll actually be able to see inside the courtroom there from both the prosecution and the defense, and you'll be able to hear from the witnesses as well. You can also follow us on our social media pages, Fox 7 Austin, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well, so you can catch up with everything. We also had an interesting story here regarding the yogurt shop murders, something that we have been following since 1991 when this first happened, decades ago. A frightening story from the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt Shop. 4 girls brutally murdered some of them sexually assaulted, and we eventually found out in September, due to DNA evidence and advancements in technology, that the man responsible for that, based on this evidence, was a man by the name of Robert Eugene Brashers. A new wrinkle in all of this, because it looks like Brashers is responsible for another unsolved murder, another cold case, this coming out of Lexington, Kentucky. It was on November 7th, 1998. And so the Lexington Police Department actually releasing a statement today saying that 43-year-old Linda Marie Rutledge had 2 gunshot wounds to the head, suffered internal blunt force trauma, and they believe that that .380 gun that they have and the DNA that they have points it to Robert Eugene Brashers. So the Lexington Police Department actually sent us a video to explain all of this. Not necessarily a press conference, but pretty dang close to it. And so I want you guys to listen into this from the Lexington Police Department. As I mentioned, so many people have been following this story. So many people have been interested in trying to figure out what happened to those poor girls there at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt Shop. And it looks like due to advancements and due to these police departments working together, they are now starting to put all the pieces and really just revealing sort of the monster that Robert Eugene Brashers was. So we'll listen in to the Lexington.
An unsolved homicide investigation that we'd like to share with you. For the last 27 years, detectives have continued to follow up on leads, tips, and evidence in connection with the homicide death of 43-year-old Linda Rutledge. And we can now say that the suspect has been identified and the case has been solved, finally bringing justice to Linda and her family. The suspect was identified as Robert Eugene Brashers, who's been deceased since January of 1999. But through DNA and ballistic evidence testing, he was determined to be responsible for Linda's death. If he were alive today, he'd be arrested and charged with murder along with other charges. Solving cases like this take all of us working together, and this one would not have been possible for us to solve without the assistance and help from Austin, Texas Police Department, the Texas Office of Attorney General, the City of Austin Forensic Science Department, the Kentucky State Police Forensic Laboratory, DNA Labs International, the ATF, the FBI, and the Lexington Fire Department. We want to thank them for their assistance and teamwork in helping bring justice to Linda and her family. We also want to thank our detectives, Forensic Service Unit, and investigators who remain dedicated and continue to work on this case for the past 27 years, looking over notes, re-entering evidence, following up on leads and tips, and researching how new technology can help further the investigation. Because you never gave up, we now know who killed Linda Rutledge. But most importantly, we want to honor Linda. Her life was cut short after just 43 years, and her family has had to live with the pain of losing her and not knowing who took her life. While her case may be solved, it doesn't bring Linda back. But we hope that by knowing who killed her, her loved ones can begin to heal. We've spoken with Linda's family, and they've asked that the media and the public respect their privacy during this time. Now join our Crime Stoppers coordinator, Detective Kristen Klingshorn, as she sits down with the case detective, Detective John Davis, and Bureau of Investigation clerk and retired police commander Ann Whitty, to learn more about this case and how it was solved.
I'm Detective Kristen Klingshorn. I am the Lexington Police Department.
So as you just heard there, the Lexington Police Department talking about this unsolved case where they ultimately find that the same man responsible for the horrific yogurt shop murders in Austin also responsible for the death of 43-year-old, the woman, let me get her name right, Linda Marie Rutledge. And they recovered from the scene a .380 shell casing and a DNA from Rutledge's body, basically bringing this all together, working with the Austin Police Department. And so similar to Austin, as we see here, as he kind of goes on this reign of terror, if you will, Brashers had no ties to Lexington, according to our reporting, and he has now been found responsible for at least 8 murders after his death, and there could obviously still be more as we start to piece together all of this. They were able to determine that the bullets fired in the yogurt shop murders came from the same gun used in Rutledge's murder, and obviously this also the gun that he ultimately used to kill himself, this .380. And Marco Bittnell, our reporter, will have more information on this. He has been all over this today, and so you'll get some more information. But basically these law enforcement departments coming together to try and piece all this. I do want to go to a live scene now, I believe in Seattle, that we have from our other Fox station there. As we have seen regarding this ICE shooting, a lot of cities around the United States having anti-ICE protests, not only in Minneapolis, but all major cities. We've seen it in Chicago, in Seattle. So I do want to take a live shot here from Seattle. It looks like a protester is being interviewed, so I want to listen into that.
My voice and my warm body to the number in the crowds. So in terms of where we go from here, all I can say is we've got to keep the resistance up. This is not okay. It's not okay. And there's a lot of intersectionality here. People are talking about Palestine, people are talking about Venezuela. There are 100 other issues we could talk about. I had a hard time finding paper for this sign because I've been making signs for so many different issues for so long. All of it's important, but in my mind, we just have to keep the resistance up. We need to defend our democracy. That's the key thing. Things have to change. I believe that people around the country know that. We all know that. And the tide is turning, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take people showing up like you did, like I did, like hundreds of people did here at the federal building tonight. So keep it up. That's all I can say.
Well, thanks for speaking with us, too. We really appreciate it. Anything else?
How'd I do? I mean, I love this. This is kind of fun. I don't have any experience with this.
So that is a live shot there from Seattle.
Okay,
An
thank you,
anti-ICE
thank you.
protest there,
I watched the
obviously,
news tonight,
in the wake of the tragedy that occurred in Minneapolis earlier today at 9:30 this morning, Central Time. 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good shot dead by an ICE agent there as they were performing an operation. She was seen there in her SUV, shot while in her vehicle trying to drive there. And so we'll continue to have more information on this as we get it. But as I have mentioned, the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey calling this BS. We've seen Governor Tim Walz telling President Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough, please leave us alone, essentially. But then Kristi Noem coming out and saying, hey, this guy was trying to do his job, referring to the ICE agent. These people got in the way, and that he was just using what she says is his training to try and basically, self-defense and trying to protect the other officers as well. So we're going to see a lot of back and forth on this, and then President Trump obviously giving his side of the story as well. We're going to take another break, and when we get back, we'll get more into some stories around Austin, and as well as an update on the Longhorn legend wide receiver, Jordan Shipley. I know I mentioned it briefly yesterday, but unfortunately, Jordan Shipley involved in what appears to be an accident out at his ranch, and he was severely burned. We are getting more information in terms of his recovery. So many people sending out their thoughts and prayers for him. He's gone through, I believe, multiple surgeries. It looks as though he will pull through on this, and so we'll continue to monitor the situation. But an outpouring of love and support, of course, for Jordan Shipley, someone who we just did a story on regarding his local business. I know our Crime Watch reporter, Meredith Aldis, was talking about that and how, he and his wife trying to do something here locally. So a really sad story, but hopefully it'll end on a good note. We're going to take a break. Welcome back into Austin now, live from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. We've got about 12 minutes left in the show here. Obviously, a lot to cover today. The last 2 days, really, quite the news cycle it has been, both here locally and nationally. Obviously, our reporters running around trying to get as much information and updates as possible. As I mentioned, a huge update related to the yogurt shop murders. Certainly a story that's not only gripped this community, but a lot of people nationwide. Our very own Marco Bittner will have more on that. Exactly. Robert Eugene Brashers, the person responsible for this, according to DNA evidence, has been linked to another unsolved murder case in Lexington, Kentucky. So he'll have all those details. We'll also have more information on the Uvalde school shooting trial regarding what could have been, it looked like for a little bit there, a mistrial due to some inconsistencies with a witness testimony. So I do want to give you guys an update as well on the former Longhorns legend. Well, he is a Longhorns legend. He's not former, but Jordan Shipley. I remember watching Jordan Shipley growing up, of course, the great wide receiver, and the quarterback, Colt McCoy. What a dynamic duo those both were. But unfortunately, yesterday we got wind that he had been involved in an accident. So I do want to read from our story here, which you can find on the Fox 7 Austin website. Here's what we know. Shipley was reportedly operating a machine on his ranch near Burnett when the machine caught on fire. He was operating that piece of equipment, and this is a friend of his saying, I'm going to assume it was probably a skid steer doing some clearing, burning some brush, and a tragic thing happened and caught on fire somehow. Shipley's family says he is in critical but stable condition. They said, quote, by the grace of God, he was able to get to his ranch employee, and they were able to get to the hospital. It really hits home to me being on the ranch, running the ranch, taking care of it. A lot of times I'm by myself, and I've gotten myself into some hairy situations before, and by the grace of God, I was able to get out of them. Thank God for Jordan's resilience and his stubbornness to be able to get to his ranch employees. So many people in this community pulling for Jordan Shipley, the 40-year-old who just was an awesome player, an All-American in 2009, 248 career catches, nearly 3,200 yards, 33 touchdowns. He was no joke. Eventually drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in the 3rd round in 2010, and he played 3 seasons in the NFL. So we, of course, will keep you guys updated. I know so many people out there hoping and praying for the best when it comes to Jordan Shipley, and it sounds like his stubbornness, his resilience, able to get him to his ranch employees so he could be life-flighted. I do want to give you guys an update regarding a really interesting story we had regarding ICE, as we have been talking about throughout this entire show. There was a 5-year-old U.S. citizen taken by ICE, and eventually, as we got wind of it, their whereabouts were unknown. So there was community advocates in the Austin area calling for support for this family and trying to locate the missing child. So when we first got this advocacy group here, grassroots leadership, saying, we're seeking help locating this 5-year-old. The Austin Police Department turned into an arrest by ICE Monday morning near Oak Hill. Genesis Esther Gutierrez Castellanos, age 5, has not been able to be located in numerous agencies, including ICE, Office of Refugee Resettlement, Child Protective Services, or any of the Central Texas Immigration Detention Facilities. This advocacy group goes on to say, it has been 2 days and we don't have any information. We are so worried. So, according to Austin Police, this is what we were told. On Monday, January 5th, at 4:35 a.m., APD officers responded to a disturbance call in the 6100 block of Blue Stem Trail. Officers investigated the report and determined there was no ongoing disturbance and no injuries observed. During the course of the response, officers identified an individual with an administrative warrant issued by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Pergo notified ICE, so APD notifies them to do this administrative warrant on the subject. Federal authorities arrived on scene and took custody of the individual and her child. Any additional information regarding this case will be provided by ICE. APD has spoken with ICE. According to them, the mother and the child are together with ICE. ICE will be providing a statement. So as soon as we get that, we'll, of course, have an update from you regarding that. But we heard from an advocacy group basically trying to figure out where is this 5-year-old girl. And then we also heard from APD saying they were responding to that call at 4:35 in the morning and trying to figure out exactly what was going on. I am looking across here, and there is something from the press conference earlier today regarding the ICE incident in Minneapolis. So I just want to take that just for a second so we can listen in. This was earlier today. This is not live.
I got there shortly after this call came in. I did not see anyone else with her while I was on the scene. However, I've since been told by our officers that have been with her the entire time that a spouse has arrived at the hospital.
And there you have it. Some excerpts from this afternoon of Chief Brian O'Hara and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry on the incident that happened this morning on the corner of 34th and Portland in South Minneapolis. All right.
As you heard, that was just the tail end of a press conference there with the Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara. So I just want to recap this before we head out here. We got about 6-7 minutes left. If you're just joining us, what we know so far, an ICE agent fatally shot a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis Wednesday morning, earlier today. That was around 9:30 in the morning. Witnesses told Fox 9, our other affiliate, a woman got into a red vehicle and there was one ICE agent on either side of the vehicle trying to get in, and a third ICE agent came and tried to yank on the driver's side door. One of the agents on the driver's side door backed away and then opened fire, shooting 3 times, according to them, through the driver's side window. I know I showed this earlier, but if you're just joining us, I do want to show this video again. Once again, want to warn you, it may be disturbing for some of you to see. This is more of a wide angle here, the first angle we showed, and I do want to run through it again because this is about as close as it looks like anybody got to this action in terms of what happened earlier today. You will hear those gunshots and you'll see it. You can see there, I want to start that over. So once again, just a warning here. So you'll see the ICE agents trying to get her out of a car. It looks as though she's trying to block their passenger because she's kind of got her car turned. And now they're trying to tell her to get out. It looks like that door's locked. They can't get in. There's that other officer on the other side. I don't know if his foot gets run over there. I guess we could zoom in on that. I'll pause it. I don't know. It looks like he gets away in time. I'm not quite sure if his foot gets run over there. But according to President Trump, he was run over. So I'm trying to figure out where that is. Here we go. You can see his foot's right there. We'll play that out. I don't know, maybe his foot does get clipped, maybe his leg does. I don't know. But you see the 3 shots fired there. That car eventually goes into another car. And there was another angle of a video where you could actually see blood, a blood trail there in the ice right there. So that's one angle of it. I do want to show you the other angle just so you can get a different perspective. Got about 5 minutes left here, but I do want to show you the other angle. Once again, disturbing content for some, so if you do not want to watch this, you can look away. This one takes a little bit longer to develop, but it is that same incident that we just saw, just from the other side of the street. You can see there the woman shot, and then her car goes into that other vehicle there. So as you'll see here, watch. She's trying to get away. There she's shot. I don't know if she's incapacitated at that point, but she runs right into that white vehicle. There were some other people that eventually ran up to her. You can see a trail of blood. I don't have permission to show that video. That's not within the Fox News part of this. But according to another witness, here, a witness said that a doctor was at the scene and tried to help the woman who had been shot, but the ICE agents refused to let the doctor in to help. Up to 15 minutes later, an ambulance arrived, but was blocked by ICE vehicles that had occupied the street. Witnesses go on to say ICE agents then carried a, quote, limp body to the end of the street where the person was loaded into an ambulance. But according to DHS, they said she died at the hospital. It could be just that she was pronounced dead at the hospital. But 15 minutes later, it looks like, according to the witnesses, ICE agents carrying a limp body to the end of the street. Of course, there was also other videos that we saw, people within this neighborhood very upset. You could hear individuals yelling, murderers, yelling at the ICE agents, telling them to get out of their neighborhood. This woman, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, who is dead now following this incident. We did show you guys some of the reaction from politicians, whether that be President Donald Trump or even local congressman, Austin Congressman Lloyd Doggett here as well. And of course, when it comes to the senator race, the latest from James Tallarico talking about this as well. So, you know, a lot of reaction. We assume that there's going to continue to be protests. I do want to take, we've got about a minute left. I want to take a live shot now from, I think this is still Seattle. You'll see, hear those people yelling right now.